your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your dish splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX.
J-Way.
I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless.
I'm gone.
Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck.
Give me that.
Into the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Corner to Copa. I'm here with my co-host, Coach. How you feeling today?
Hey, it's warming up here in the D. Getting ready for close and close to spring opening day, and I think we are under 30 days now.
Yeah, we're about, I think 20 days away from the opener, if I'm not mistaken, or that might just be opening day for all major leagues. But the Tigers are in full swing, no pun intended, because the bats have woken up. Most importantly, on the right-handed side, we've seen some nice power as of late, which includes a nice effort against the Philadelphia Phillies, where we jumped right all over the starter and had a 17-run output, including a back-to-back. Was it? Yeah, back-to-back home runs
on 3 consecutive pitches.
On 3 consecutive pitches. So being aggressive, I know Scott Harris likes those patient guys, but sometimes you gotta strike while the iron is hot. And did we ever strike? We jumped all over. Who was the pitcher's name? Jesus Luzardo. That's who it is.
Oh man.
and this is why the pitching coach was live on the mic doing interviews. I'm sure he'll never do that again. But I actually documented here all of the home runs that we hit in that game. If you're watching on the visual side of things, you'll see this is Tomas Nido, who hit 2 home runs that day. But the hardest one being with a 100 mile per hour exit velocity, and it traveled 395 feet. That was his second home run of the day. Mr. Gleyber Torres hit one as well that went 98 miles per hour for 372 feet. That one just kind of barely got over the wall, but we hope to see more of that come the regular season. This was his first of the year, but he hit one last night as well. And then even in Mr. Ibanez, 99 miles per hour, 376 feet. So I think is there one more? Oh yeah. Mr. Jones, Jahmai Jones. This one was a no doubter, a rocket. 112 miles per hour off the bat, and he hit that 430 feet. He has Mr. Jones. We'll talk about him a little bit more, but he has been the current spring training darling, and somebody that has emerged as a possible opening day roster candidate, especially with all the outfield injuries early on. It was Ben Malgeri. I'm not sure exactly why they slowed down on his at bats, but as of late, it's been Jahmai Jones who has the ability to hit for power. He's can play all the outfield positions, and yeah, he's been playing pretty well thus far. I think he's hitting over 1,000 OPS wise, and he's got 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, and his average was 278 at the time that I took it down. So yeah, obviously a lot of production from the right hand side. It's you really want to see the free agent guy come in and get settled in, but everybody that we mentioned there is batting right-handed, which is where we have struggled in the past. But all things considered, it's spring training. Those numbers can vary. Those numbers can be very volatile because there's a lot of different, you got a lot of different pitchers, some of which, won't get any major league action this year. But Mr. Luzardo is somebody that they traded for last year in at the trade deadline. So he's definitely not just your, single A minor league guy. But what are your thoughts about the offense?
It's always interesting in the spring because you get a mix of guys like you just mentioned. Sprinkling some guys that maybe have had a year or two of minor league or independent experience kind of coming up. You get some guys that catch fire that either get drafted later, they come in with a general invite with low expectation, and all of a sudden, they're kind of turning some heads a little bit, mostly in the organization and maybe some of the teams that they play against. But I briefly before we got on, I know we had touched on it briefly. I was like, man, I used to remember when spring training was, most of the time the starters or the guys that were going to make the roster almost without doubt we're going to get most of the playing time just because, it's their time to get ready. And you bring other guys in to kind of share some of the at bats and innings around. But now we're starting to see like a kind of an even split. You get these guys that get called up essentially for spring training, and they're given their chance to kind of shine. So from a farm system standpoint, I feel like now that they've been able to kind of recoup and recollect it and build back up their farm system in the last few years rather expeditiously too, I might add, gives these guys a little bit of a showcase in case some other teams are maybe thinking they're a piece or something away, in terms of possible trade offers. So gives them good exposure, but they were down a little bit. Obviously, that other game the other day against the Phillies was a sight we would like to see. 7, let alone 17 runs is impressive. But you got guys that are not healthy right now that aren't getting any playing time and won't probably for the rest of spring. So, these guys are stepping in. It's their time to showcase what they can do, how confident they feel, and then take away from camp down to their assignments and continue to build on that.
Yep, and you talked about our farm system being strengthened, and we were actually just announced as the number one farm season, which is number one farm team in the major leagues, which is crazy to think about where we came from. And we've got a chance to see, we've got glimpses of some of those guys. Max Clark got an at bat yesterday. I don't know if Josue Briseño was just pinch running, but Max Clark actually got him in on a sac fly in the game yesterday. As some of those younger guys, I know McGonigal at least played some defense out there, but we're getting a chance to see some of those guys get some action in front of the big league crowd and stuff like that. And we even got to see Thayron Lorenzo, he's got a decent amount of at bats this year. I mean, this spring he's been, shown for the most part early on. He showed just his plate discipline and working some walks, but he hit a nice bomb earlier in the week. And it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see him in some action against some guys that are, playing in the major leagues and the potential. And he's a pretty young guy, but that dude's got some nice power already. He kind of reminds me of V-Mart a little bit, but he's a switch hitter, and I think that eventually he's probably his hitting progression is going to outrace his defensive defensive ability, at least at catcher. But that'll likely put him on the fastest track to the major leagues. I saw in the queue that we talked about, could he potentially, fast track and be, the next first baseman or, surpass Mr. Torque. I don't know if we're moving him that quickly. He hasn't fared that well thus far, but I love to, it's exciting to see him, starting to flash, the bat early on. What do you think?
Yeah, it's always interesting. I mean, we would prefer ideally to come into game one fully healthy and ready to go in terms of, who we were with to end the season last year with. That's kind of what I picture in terms of healthy. If, they're not ready to come back and they were hurt at the end of last year, then I don't really count that as a detraction. But you just never know. Weird things can happen. And I think we were pretty fortunate last year to go into the season. Sawyer Gipson-Long was the only major injury that we had to start the year, and he didn't play the whole year. So he wasn't really in the picture at all. So the fact that we'll get him back at some point in the spring here, at the beginning part of the season, that is, because I don't believe he's going to be ready out of camp. I know he had some, and we noted the last show, he had some type of injection for pain to help with his recovery. I think along with Wilmer Flores, those guys were getting some type of, medication in that regard. So I don't know. They suffer another injury. I don't know where else they're gonna turn to. And some of these guys have not really. It's hard to tell if some of these guys are actually doing well based on numbers alone. Some guys don't do well in the spring and they start out hot game one, or vice versa. They start hot, they start cold, or both. It's just a mix of things. These guys got to get some regular appearances. So some of these guys that are now stepping in for these injuries, you don't know what you're going to get, but it's possible. But I don't put more than 2% stock in it. But it's just a nice spicy little subject line for us to dream about.
Yeah, and as we talk about the spring training performances, I definitely err on the side of caution for guys that haven't proven that they can, hack it at the, no pun intended, at the major league level. But when you see, it's encouraging to see guys like Cole Keith, Riley Green, even Dylan. I mean, Dylan Dingler has had a pretty good camp so far. But when you see guys like Riley Green and Cole Keith hit well in spring, you can almost bet, they've already proven that they can perform at the highest level. So you don't have to question those guys as much. But you got guys like Andrew Navigado, who has continued to play well and played well all of last year and didn't get that opportunity. And even guys like Tomas Nido. I mean, although he's not known for his bat and hasn't really proven that. That's not really in his track record. But I mean, I think they're definitely applying some pressure, and when you got guys like Zach McKinstry who continue to struggle, and Ryan Kreidler, who essentially is in the hierarchy above a Navigato, with him being on the 40-man roster, it's like eventually something's got to give there. I mean, let's see how many at bats Navigato has. 17 at bats, and he's hitting 471 with a home run and 4 RBIs. I mean, and I want to say he plays the outfield as well. He's a shortstop by trade, but I mean, you don't just hit 471 by accident. Tomas Nido. Now, granted, he's heavily blocked off by Dingler and Rogers. So there's really no route to him getting any playing time unless there's an injury, but he is a right-handed bat. And the right-handed bats in general have been strong, which is encouraging. That the right-handed bats have definitely been strong this camp. Jace Young, well, we'll get to him. We'll get to Jace Young after this break, but
nice tease.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Let's take a break here. I hate when it's not right there. There we go. All right, so we tease the man of the hour, Mr. Jace Young. He with Alex Bregman, not a name you haven't heard in a while, but with the Tigers not being able to secure an Alex Bregman signing and have Matt Vierling being injured to start camp, it created a perfect opportunity for Jace Young to take the bull by the horn and secure the third base position, especially with a guy like Hyu Lee, who we're also, kind of grooming to be a third baseman. He's struggling as well, but after starting with 2 doubles to begin camp, he's kind of slowed down quite a bit. I think he's hitting about below the 125. Got a 125 average. I think he's looked decent at third base, but I mean, I'm not 100% certain who the Tigers start at third base to start, to start the year. I'm really questioning whether or not can Trey Sweeney play third, because they've already decided that Javi Baez is the opening day shortstop, and Sweeney hit a home run against a lefty this week, I believe. So he's performing. He's performing pretty well with the bat, but who do you anticipate being the starting third baseman? Do you think it's still going to be Jace Young, despite the fact that he continues to struggle? I mean, he didn't hit great last year, but he's struggled as of late in the spring.
Yeah, to your point, we were by we I mean you did a lot of legwork in terms of tracking Jace until he came up, and when he got up, we kind of were like, okay, we're gonna take things in pieces here, not make a judgment call on 1 or 2 games where he might have been a pinch hitter and a late game sub or starter that then got pulled. Obviously, when we want to see a little bit of body of work before we can give an actual assessment of any kind. And he struggled not just hitting, he struggled defensively too. It was not pretty. It kind of a little bit different than compared to Dingler. Dingler just wasn't hitting and frankly just didn't play because, why? Because Jake Rogers was killing it for the most part for them. So, but in terms of Jace Young, though, like, here's the interesting thing with that left side entirely. They're in a little bit of an unusual situation because, like you said, they don't have a traditional starting third baseman that has shown much competency, really, whether it's fielding, throwing, or hitting. So now you've got this other conundrum where your outfield's taking some hits. You've moved some players around in the infield. We kind of sandwich, right now as it stands, Torque, Colt, and Malloy at first because Gleiber won't play anywhere else other than second base. God, I love having to babysit a child on a professional team. And now you've got this mess on the left side with in addition to that, your 2 better outfielders along, Green is obviously a good outfielder defensively, but in terms of ground and coverage, Parker and Vierling are massive for that tandem out there. I don't know. You're going to have to platoon. Like, I know we talked about maybe Sweeney maybe not even making the 26-man roster just because they have a gluttonous infield collection right now. And he did get better with the bat. He had some timely hits in the postseason. Sweeney, that is. His defensive play was better. But, God, the biasing, I think, is a thing that I think if you want, we can talk a little bit later on in more depth. But right now, like, I think the fact that they're going to push Javi to get as much playing time early when he's healthy and be the potential regular. And with Gleiber locked in at second, you're kind of left with a mess of platoon guys at third that just haven't really proven more than a few games at a time that they can handle that position on a regular basis. So I think Young, Sweeney, McKinstry, I think is going to get some looks. I think McKinstry's probably the most invaluable bench guy right now because there's needs everywhere on the infield minus the mound and the battery. So it's going to be a mess right now to start. So it's going to be one of those 3 guys primarily, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, McKinstry, like I said, he hasn't hit very well. He's hitting 214, but he can literally play anywhere at this point. And there was certainly an opportunity for a couple of different guys to kind of take the reins, even like a Kryler. Kryler can play all over the infield, but he's hitting 143. Yeah, I wish, I wish guys like Colt Keith or Malloy would have panned out at third base, so they would have been great options at this point. Because Malloy is another guy who initially I had said that Torkelson's having an okay camp. He's got a hold of a couple pitches, but he hasn't really taken the reins and secured his spot. But last night, AJ Hinch on the mic talking about the adjustments that he's made and how he's changed his stance slightly. And sure enough, he goes opposite field, 90, nearly 100 miles per hour exit velocity. And then on his next at bat, on the pull side, hits a home run. Hey,
Yeah.
leading the Tigers in home runs right now. He's still a solo homer merchant. He's
Right.
only got 4 RBIs. Still not doing great with runners on, but you can't. I mean, how do you justify sending a guy down and he's call it what you want, mistake pitch, type pitch, mistake pitch type hitter. But I mean, when you have the ability to hit the ball out with runners on, I mean, and you've already you've shown that you have the potential, you have the power potential to hit 30 plus. I mean, it might once again push Malloy out. The only blessing for him is that he can play corner outfield, and we are a little thin in the outfield position. So, so miraculously, they might actually find room for Malloy and Torkelson on the same roster, because Malloy is hitting pretty well himself. He's hitting 389 right now, with a 966 OPS. What's he got? He's got 4 RBIs, no home runs, but he's hit well with runners on base. He hit one right back up the box earlier this week. He's hitting the ball very hard right now. You really can't justify sending a guy down, especially a right-handed hitter. So, you take this all with a grain of salt, but I think it's an encouraging thing to see so many guys that from the right-handed side hitting the ball hard, but not to mention that guys like Green are look like they're in midseason form. Carpenter has hit the ball well, and Cole Keith has played well. So, the offense might be better off than we think, especially if we can get anything out of a Javi Baez and a Torres, who should be very, motivated. MSU Detroit fans is Justin Henry Malloy making the team will probably be at DH opposite of Carey, like what they did in the playoffs. Yeah.
I really am trying to I really want to limit trying to take away at bats from Carey. I know we talked about it in the last show. Like I don't mind him being in the outfield. And to your point, you mentioned too on that, he's got an arm. He's got an above average arm in right field to more than hold his own down there if he were to be the everyday right fielder and get a break on DH. But I think back to the Torque and Malloy thing. One, in terms of the home runs, I looked up the pitch by pitch sequence yesterday. He hit an 88 mile an hour sinker and a 92, 93 mile an hour cutter, which, remember, we noted going back to the 18 months prior to last year and the 6 months into the season before in 23, guy can't hit a fastball over 95 miles an hour. So I take with that a grain of salt. Like you said, he's a mistake hitting pitcher, but I'm sorry, you got to be more than a mistake hitting hitter. Excuse me. In this league right now, guys are throwing 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, and he struggles against that elevated velocity. So the fact that Malloy, that you mentioned, hitting for average, both fields, we saw it coming out of the either right before or right after the All-Star break last year. They had a series in Texas, in Arlington, and Malloy played 2 out of the 3 games, and he had power to both sides, gap power. He had a couple doubles, a home run. He was hitting for average and some good power. So I liked what I saw then in flashes. And I just think overall as a hitter, Malloy does more from a hitting standpoint than Torkelson has shown at the major league level, at least so far. And that's why I would say right now, if someone had to go between the two and you had to keep one righty, I'm probably taking Malloy. And then also to your point too, I'm just piggybacking off you right now. You got all these good points. He plays outfield, corner outfield too. So, and Torque just recently, late last year, became a slightly better defender at first base with a couple nice picks in the playoffs.
All right, let's see. MSU Detroit fan bench of Javi, Andy Ibanez, Spencer Torkelson, Justin Henry, Malloy, and Zach McKinstry. He said, I'll have a bad feeling they will give Baez a starting position, which I don't want. I think was that made official already?
I don't want to say they're saying he's going to be the opening day starter, but when he is healthy, they made it sound like he's going to have every chance to lose the everyday shortstop position. At least that's what they're projecting. So
because he's still DHing, right? He's not playing defense.
I thought he played an inning,
or is he playing defense? Yeah, he is playing defense.
So he's
healthy.
He's been about
if he's doing it all,
he's healthy-ish. Is he 100%? I don't think so because he's not getting the same amount of playing time as any of the other starters so far.
Oh well, yeah. They're
easing him back in.
Yeah, they're easing him back in, but yeah, I think they're ramping him up for by April.
Put it this way: I don't think he's making 130 starts at shortstop this year.
No. He's not going to make 130 starts for one because he's not going to hit well enough to justify not playing Sweeney. So, but I still, regardless, I think that there's a resounding sample size that if he's hitting with runners on, he's going to get the job done for whatever reason. So, that is one encouraging thing to take into consideration.
And
go ahead.
Read that out.
Oh yeah, MSU Detroit fan says Sweeney will still probably make the team because he'll still be a better option at short than McKinstry. I got to check the numbers on who. I got to take the numbers as far as everybody can't make the team. It's despite the fact that all these guys are somewhat worthy of it, but
yeah. No, to MSU Detroit fan, but I think we had just touched on that maybe a little bit earlier just because of the injuries. I think I had noted that of these bench guys right now, McKinstry is the most valuable just because they've got issues still on the left side infield and they've got injuries on the outfield right now. So, I mean, and Sweeney's still young. What is he, 24?
Yeah.
He's younger than he looks, but I think he's got options too. So, whereas McKinstry, I think, may have 1 year of option left, but I mean, he just does more. It's not a detraction on Sweeney. It's just that he's in a spot where he's younger than everyone else in his area, in his role, left side infield too. So, he has that flexibility to go down if they need to, if they feel like he can grow more, getting regular playing time in Toledo to start at least, and then making a change from there. But I think McKinstry's just too invaluable right now. And out of all the other guys that, came up with the organization, he just brings a wealth of experience and maturity to the team with a lot of young guys.
All right, let's get to our next break, and then we're going to talk about injuries. All right, take it away.
Yep. So we've noted the Vierling and Meadows injuries, and I guess just the other day they announced that they've quote unquote resumed baseball activities. Although the original diagnosis for Vierling of being out for opening day has not changed. My guess he'll probably miss the first series or two. Beyond that, I think they'll make a decision if they're going to put him on IL or not. So I think it's only a 10-day IL now. So that's kind of, they're going to slowly work him back in. The Parker Meadows thing concerns me, and I know we talked about it offline the other day. You talk about nerve issues, you kind of go down a road that many people who experience the injury more than once, or I don't want to call it injury, but basically a handicap, they don't tend to get out of it. Really, it can tend to be a chronic issue. Sorry. So, hoping that by the love of God, take the time with Parker, because he's going to be the fixture of the outfield for some time to come. But we'll see on that. They haven't ruled him out for opening day, so I think they're just taking it day by day right now. Wenzel Perez came out 2 days ago. Came out of a game with back tightness. He's kind of day to day right now. Nothing they think long term or even to threaten possibly being on the IL for opening day. Frankly, at this point, they cannot afford any more injuries really to this outfield group, because that's 3 of your top 5 outfielders right there, not counting Green and Carpenter. So that was their strength last year. Their outfield defense, along with their pitching and bullpen, which we'll get into a little bit later on here, had been their identity. So they need these guys in because of what they bring defensively as well.
Absolutely. And so to piggyback off of the situation with Perez being injured, not that we don't know how serious. I don't think it's going to be too serious, but he did, obviously didn't travel with the team. And that would make the 3rd outfielder that we have currently that was likely a opening day, on the opening day roster. It's a foregone conclusion that Jahmai Jones is going to find his way in there as a reserve outfielder in some capacity, right?
Yeah, I mean, if not, there's going to be teams that maybe think that, like, okay, we could bring him in and be a depth guy for us right now. But yeah, he'd be a guy right now in terms of the outfield, based on everything. Like, he catapults right to the top of the front of the line in terms of, getting an opportunity first. And I would say even over McKinstry, Lee McKinstry for the infield predominantly, although he can play it, he's got the speed and the range. Johnny Jones, from a hitting standpoint too, has been thoroughly impressive this spring. So I can't really speak on his defensive ability, but yeah, he certainly is the number 1 guy on my short list for outfield opportunities.
Yeah, he grades out about average defensively. He doesn't have blazing speed, but he's definitely capable of playing all over the outfield. And, this is a guy that was a former top prospect of the Angels. He was drafted in the 2nd round, and I think he came in as an infielder as well. But he made the Yankees team out of camp last year. He's kind of spent most of his time in the minor leagues throughout his career, but yeah, if he can continue to hit for power from the right-handed side, it's kind of a no-brainer that we at least give him an opportunity to hold things down. It's as it looks right now. As it looked last week, Wenzel Perez was the center fielder that was going to be playing a lot while Parker Meadows is gone, and now Perez is hurt. So yeah, it's pretty obvious they don't want to put Riley Green in center field right now. They would prefer to put somebody else out there. And, I think Jahmai Jones in every shape or form is a better option than Ryan Kreidler, who's another person that they talked about possibly being there. So, why not? You throw, you got to open up a roster spot for him. And I think that Alex Lang and Sawyer Gipson-Long are still far enough, away from being ready to pitch that, one of those 2 guys is kind of, is probably the option that we take to make room for them. But you gotta certainly got to protect Riley Green at all costs, and if it means making a way for Jahmai Jones, I think that's a good alternative. MC Detroit fans says with Badu out with injury, he's definitely the top option for outfield depth in Toledo if he doesn't make the team. Yeah, and you can kind of tell just by who they're prioritizing by the playing time right now, and the Ben Malgeri guy has, I don't know if he's just mysteriously or hurt or something like that, but I haven't seen him since he came out the gate and was crushing the ball. I haven't really seen too much of him, so they're definitely prioritizing him, Jahmai Jones right now. I did want to revisit the 23-man roster. Let me know if you can see this here. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's good. Right there where it's at, it's good.
Okay. So
actually slide it up.
Which way?
Yeah, keep going. Nope. The other way. Yep, keep going. Keep going. Good.
All right. So as you can see, we got Green, Keith, Carpenter, and then the guys in bold are the guys that are currently injured right now. So we got Meadows, Vierling, and Perez that were, Perez was maybe, on the fence as far as making the team, but you got three guys right there that are currently not active. And then, of course, we had, Torque is on here currently. The Baez, Torres, Sweeney, and Dingler. So the bubble guys were McKinstry, Young, and Malloy. With the injuries that we have right now, assuming Meadows and Vierling are not ready, do you just move McKinstry and Malloy up? Does that suffice as far as the needs that we have with a Meadows and Vierling?
Yeah, I mean, the crux of this is that it's weird in a sense, but it comes down to really probably two things. But the biggest thing is the fact that it's centered around Parker, because he's really the only true center fielder on this roster. Right. So that creates a domino effect for literally all the other 6 positions. We'll say 5. We'll take away first base for the most part, because Malloy will really only play right. Same with Carey for the most part. So that kind of combination kind of solves itself. But yeah, Parker going down makes things complicated. And then you throw in Vierling, who also is an infield outfield guy. He can play third. He can play everywhere in the outfield. Now you have not just spot positions of these guys that we're starting in terms of the need to fill their shoes. You've got the depth of their flexibility that they would play in the other positions that now fall into kind of smaller chaos. So I understand why a lot of people would be the first one to say, you know what? No, screw McKinstry. He can't really hit consistently. I get that. And Young is obviously a younger prospect that we're hoping pans out. And at some point you have to give these guys opportunities. But I still think McKinstry is a guy that right now, based on everything we know, Meadows and Vierling, Meadows will say just for now will not play the opening series, at least with Vierling. We don't know how close to 100% Javi really is. You still have that question mark over there. I will say I haven't seen or read anything that indicates he's still laboring, but you can tell he's not running at 100%. I think he's just focusing on some of the smaller fundamental things right now to work himself back up. But I gotta say that McKinstry has got to have a spot on that 26 man going in. So. And to your point, too, you mentioned Alex Lang and Sawyer Gipson-Long. If one of those two goes in the 60-day, that does open up a spot. That's the only way that you can replace a guy on the 26th, if you don't demote him, is put him on the 60-day IL. So they have some interesting decisions ahead based on the recovery timelines here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's a good
McKinstry is definitely going to be just the fact that he's the, I don't want to call him a poor man's Veerling, but essentially he plays that role.
Yeah.
In that he can play outfield, equally as much as he can play infield. So I think he's secure. I think it comes down to Sweeney or Young.
I agree.
And Sweeney's got it right now. The only reason why it's a question is because Sweeney doesn't play third. So you still don't have it. You still don't have an everyday third baseman. I mean, we don't know if Young is an everyday third baseman, but you certainly don't want to roll out McKinstry every day or Ibanez versus a righty. So, you just got a bunch of guys that are pigeonholed into a certain role, and that's where it comes back to Young being your best option because he does. I mean, he has pretty even splits between lefty and righty, but thus far he hasn't hit anybody very well. So, just sucks that Malloy didn't pan out as a third baseman because he would be the penciled in, undisputed third baseman at this point.
Bro, you read my mind, man. I literally was about to say, I'm like, despite all of this that's been happening between this spring and last year with injuries and getting guys to play their positions, lost in the sauce of it all is the fact that, to your exact, we just said, Malloy just didn't pan out at third. He had that shoulder injury. He's a little bit weaker with the arm now. And then Wenciel Perez was a former infielder who had issues throwing to first base, bad issues, and now that's why he plays outfield. But he doesn't have as strong of an arm as a result. Although he had a couple of good throws late last year. Surprisingly, which was nice to see. But yeah, lost in the sauce is that the guys that are playing those positions now, those weren't their positions when they first came up. So you throw that into the mix as well.
Absolutely. And what was I about to say? Malloy has looked all right at first base. He I was listening on the radio, and I think he had a kind of a bad error at first on a ground ball, but yeah, he's been solid over there, and yeah, they gotta find a spot for him. I think it would be a crime if he gets sent down to AAA. I mean, I think he undoubtedly tears it up down there, but right now our righty bats is power from the right side is what we need. So with him hitting he couldn't be hitting too much better than he is right now. So it's a blessing that Torque is hitting as well, but I think that we may just have to sacrifice the defensive side of things in order to put the best hitters, keep the best hitters up right now. So if that means it's Malloy over Young, and then you got to go with the McKinstry and Ibanez platoon over at third, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, our biggest question mark is the fact that we essentially traded out Gleyber Torres for Torque, leaving us with just as many right-handed bats as we had before. But we may have something on our hands with Torque, Torque and Malloy playing to get, together on the roster right now. So we're going to get to a break, and then we're going to talk the breakout game. All right. So as we talked about earlier, the Detroit Tigers have the number one farm system in all of the major leagues. So with that comes a very stacked roster for the breakout game. I feel like this is a newer feel like this is a newer thing that they've incorporated to give a nice highlight to the young guys. I could be mistaken, but um, who are who are the players that you are most looking forward to seeing in that is March? What day is that? March.
I got the schedule up right now. I was actually trying to find that. The
I think it's
first
March 13th.
games start on the 13th is when it
Okay.
kicks off, but the Tigers play Sunday the 16th at 4:05 on MLB Network against the Braves.
Yeah, so hopefully, we'll get a chance to. I'm sure there'll at least be some footage of it, and we got an opportunity to watch some of those guys play yesterday because some of the young guys got a chance to get in the game, like Max Clark, McGonigal, and Briseño. But who are the highlighted players that we have going in that breakout game?
So we've got the guys that we assumed would, Max Clark and McGonigal. Theron Lorenzo is going to be in, despite having had some regular at-bats with Detroit this spring. Hyu Lee and last year's first round pick, Bryce Rainier, will all be debuting in this MLB Spring Breakout Showcase.
And who are we going up against?
The Atlanta Braves.
Okay, another one of your squads. Do you keep up with their farm system or what?
Not really. No. I mean, they've had so many good regulars over the last handful of years. They haven't really, their core guys from a handful of years ago were Acuna and Albies and some of those guys. So, no, can't say I do much farm system research on the Braves, but I feel like these clubs have had a pretty good history, mutual relationship. They've had trades over the years that have gone back and forth. Obviously, we had the big trade with John Smoltz back in the day during the 84 run.
Right.
That basically catapulted Smoltz into a Hall of Fame career and led the Tigers to the last World Series. But no, this should be fun and exciting. These guys, I think you've done a really good job in tracking these guys in their professional first year debuts and on up. And I think a lot of fans are excited to see what these guys can do against some of the other best prospects that the farm systems have to offer.
Yep, and just some of the other notable players. Jaden Ham is a guy that's pretty. I want to say he's a top 10 Tiger prospect right now. Tyler Owens, I think we got in that Chafin deal. Who else? And then Seth Stevenson, he's a guy. I think he had like 90 stolen bases last year, so a pretty speed demon on the base pass. So, that'll be a fun opportunity for people to see some of the young up and comer guys. And this we don't have a number one farm system for nothing. So you should definitely see some nice talent out there. But outside of that, anything else to talk about as we wrap things up?
I would say as we kind of get closer, I mean, we still have a couple weeks, so I don't really want to say we're getting close per se, but I mean, as we begin to wind down the spring training and the guys that we believe will make the roster start to get regular, bulk of the at-bats and innings, I think right now, Grant, unless it gets some, good news coming out of spring training heading into opening day in LA, I think this team's defense, their identity is going to be largely the same as last year. It's going to be their starting pitching. Flaherty he's had only one outing, but he's looked good. 4 hits, 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, couple strikeouts, like 2, I think. So I don't think he was blowing people away, but he pitched a good outing. So I think that's good. And their bullpen, they bring pretty much everyone back for the most part. They've added a few players. I think that's what they're going to lean on until they can if these guys the hitters can take just a step or two forward from last year, In terms of production, I'm not asking for a run and a half plus scored a game more. You give me a half a run to 3/4 of a run more on average, somewhere in there. I think because remember I'll say it again this year. We'll see what happens. We'll track it this year. Last year it was crazy when I was running with this stat. 5 runs was the key number last year,
Right.
and our winning percentage was crazy just by scoring 5 runs. I think will be the mark to go on, because with the pitching staff now, with Flaherty, and frankly, I don't really care that Cobb's not even maybe going to start the first round through,
Right.
Because we still have Job, we still have Montero, so I think that's what they're going to lean on until their offense can come around.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about pitching, and I'm definitely going to touch on it real quick. But Maeda continues to deal. I think this last one,
it was good.
The velocity is still up. The strikeouts are still there. I think he had like 5 strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken.
He did, but he gave up 3-4 earned runs. He gave up a home run. Like, he's still giving up big hits. That's kind of but yeah, to your point, strikeouts, and I think he had a good whiff rate too in that game.
Yep. And so yesterday, Montero got touched up a little bit, still managed to get 5 strikeouts. Gunther got destroyed. Kind of, we were up like 11-4, and he kind of let up some runs and almost got the Orioles back in the game. But Casey Mize, another super strong outing, 3 innings, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts. Someone said on Twitter he hasn't allowed a runner past second base yet, or past second base in the few outings that he has. He's been showcasing the hard splitter that's 90 miles an hour, and he's been getting some swing and misses, which I personally always thought he had the potential for. He's got pretty good velocity on his fastball, and he's got good extension as well. He's a pretty tall guy, and that fastball seems to get there a little bit faster when you're releasing from that further distance. And part of me, especially not just the fact that he has the 1-1 top prospect potential, but as far as the body of work and what he brings to the table, I always felt that there was still something, still some meat on the bone to get to, because he has been injured for a couple years, and this may be the breakout season. The Tigers are very deep in our rotation, like you said, minus Alex Cobb even being in the picture. You still got, so we got Skubal, Flaherty, Olsen. That's, by the way, one of those big run outputs was for Reese Olsen, and he got none last year. So don't let that happen. If that happens, you got 3 guys that are essentially good enough to be aces, but to not get off, not to get off track. You got a nice battle right now between the 3 M's: Maeda, Montero, and Mize. Now Montero, like I said, got touched up last night, so that's gonna, that might knock him down in the order. But Maeda and Mize have been pretty good. They have the track record. They're guys that are being paid anyways. So we know Maeda's being paid and is going to get every opportunity to win the starting job. But yeah, Mize is a guy that they chose to bring back, and if he continues to deal, you got a really, really good starting 5/5.5, 6 rotation right there. So yeah, if the team continues to hit, we're gonna be a tough team to beat day in and day out, because Skubal lights out, Flaherty solid. He had a very respectable year last year. Olsen just didn't get any run support. So we're gonna run out some really good pitchers, and then when it gets to the bullpen, it could get spooky from there too. So. Just something to think about. We'll continue to track and watch as the spring training progresses, but I am pretty encouraged with what we have going on. Everything is nobody has really just floored me as just being, god awful coming into camp.
Yeah, I mean, to your point real quick on that, the 3Ms, I have to give Montero the edge. What he did
over both of them?
Yeah. I mean, Maeda has not proven in 2 years that he can handle the starting role, and times last year when he came in long relief would get bombed up every other outing. Mize struggled mightily in the rotation. Pitched a little bit better last year in long relief with Faedo, and then earned more as Faedo got hurt down the stretch, and they put him on basically season-ending and tenure-ending injury list, which was kind of a shame in my opinion. I thought he had done pretty well in long relief, but Mize already has that experience, playing long relief 4 or 5 innings, and he can start 4 or 5 innings. Look, I know it's against the Rockies, but Montero's complete game shutout against Colorado was impressive. And he had a good outing against Cleveland in the playoffs, the only outing I think that he had in either series. So for those reasons, in crunch time, in regular season meaningful games, Montero has had better success than Maeda for sure. And I think Mize is he's too flexible to work both those roles to just end up being a starter only with Montero never having pitched out of the bullpen, at least as a Tiger.
All right, we got some breaking news. The Tigers have just made a signing to somebody, and this is actually a major league contract right here. Oh,
I see it. Yeah.
So we have signed Jose Urquidy to a major league contract. Does this Savant page pop up on here? Can you see that?
Yeah, it's up. You're good. Looks good.
So I'm not sure whether this guy is a starting. Yeah, he's a starting pitcher. He started in 2021. He started 20 games. 2022, he started 28. And in 2023, he started 10. It looks like he's been injured. But yeah, we've signed him to a major league contract. I don't know what that. I mean, we just talked about the depth we have in the starting pitching. So I don't know what this means. He had 1 save in 2023, so maybe that means he's going to be a bullpen arm. But I don't know if this was a in relation to Gunther getting touched up yesterday or Montero getting touched up, but he seems to have some high value on his off-speed pitch, the 90 percentile as far as chase rate and average exit velocity. And so a lot of soft contact is looking like, because he's in the 80 to 90 percentile as far as exit velocity and hard hit rate. But yeah, we'll have to do some research on that, because that
I got some career numbers briefly. He's got a 4.5 positive WAR, 27-16 lifetime with a sub-4 ERA. 70 games started with 9 in relief with 1 save, over 400 innings pitched, 362 Ks, and a career 1.14 WHIP.
All right, so yeah, all in on the pitching side of things. Obviously, that's another roster spot. But more than likely, it's just probably going to knock down. I mean, might even be a Brisky or something. Hasn't he had a rough?
He got touched up in that Phillies game, but I mean, there's no way. I feel like this might be tied to an injury that's either been downplayed or has been completely kept under the rug right now. Unless it's a bullpen guy that's just stuck in the mud. He's just kind of similar to some of the other guys. But, I mean, the guys that we signed even in the normal offseason, the traditional offseason timeline, I thought collectively made us a very scary whiff-chasing bullpen collection.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have a large stadium to work with, but it's obvious that AJ wants some guys that can get some swing and misses or soft contact as well. We need some soft. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna need some soft contact because Lord knows it may be a struggle to field. So yeah, maybe this is to combat the fact that our defense might be god awful to start the year, like it was kind of last year. But yeah, I mean, according to the headline, it says provides more depth to the rotation. So this is to strengthen the rotation and probably long relief too. But I'm sure there'll be more talk about what this is about. This is obviously a guy that probably played with AJ. He's played for Houston. How long did he play for Houston?
Oh man, he's been out for a bit.
He's been out for a while.
Yeah, I think last year for sure, and I want to say there was part of 2023.
Let's see. Yeah, he's played on Houston his entire career. He came up 2019 was his debut year. So when did AJ come over?
This is his fourth year now, I think. Fourth or fifth year, somewhere in that. He had a year off because of the ban from the garbage can debacle. But yeah, I want to say this is AJ's fourth year. I want to say.
Okay, so yeah, he might have. So he probably just keeps an eye on the Astros because I don't know if he ever played with AJ because like I said, his debut was 2019. So, but
I mean, we can't get the good ass former Astros. We gotta get these guys.
Yeah.
Correa, Bregman, whiffs.
Well, and what was his win loss total? He was
like +9 over 500, something like that. Like 27-16.
He went 8-3 1 year, 13-8. Yeah, so he was solid. But I'm not gonna
ready to cut Maeda.
I can't see it. Maybe trade him.
Why? For 17 million, what are you gonna get back?
17. He's in his last year. He didn't make
12 million or whatever. He got 7. He was like 2 year 30 million. I think they staggered.
Hopefully a center fielder.
How about a third baseman? Damn.
we don't need starting pitching as much as another team. Another team might look at Maeda and say, "Hey, he can eat some innings. He's healthy, and if you can get him under 4, under 4 ERA, there's some teams that could use some starting pitching. But Tigers, Davis,
they're signing everyone.
Man. Yeah, and they want to spend money. Tigers should trade for Mike Trout. That would be amazing. Well,
Oh, what's up, David?
Well, you make that happen, I guess. You don't really worry about it because he's not gonna, he's willing to play corner outfield. So I'd be willing to, Green, Meadows, Trout, and Carpenter at DH.
That'd be nasty.
You want Torque? We'll give you Malloy.
Torque and Malloy.
I'll give you Torque. I'll give you Torque, Malloy, and a top pitching prospect, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's Trout here. Like this is.
Yeah, Job's off limits, though. Sorry.
No Job. But no, I'm not gonna.
Just kidding.
We've pushed over an hour with that breaking news, so stay tuned. Yeah. We'll probably give you another a brief drop, fully explaining and breaking down the new signee, and we got some player profiles to do as well. Parker, Meadows, and Torque. Actually, we didn't get a chance to do them last year because they were in the minor leagues when we started that. So yeah, we got some material coming for you. Hopefully the Tigers are on TV or at least the radio today so we can continue the evaluation process. Trust me, it gets a lot easier to break these games down when they're on TV, when they're on TV and stuff like that. Because these 1 o'clock games during the day that you got to find an obscure radio station to at least listen to them makes it a lot more difficult to really analyze what's going on. But the regular season is right around the corner, and then we'll have 162 games nearly every day to work off on. So please subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube. That's where you get the raw and uncut version of the show, and then we chop it up and put it on all streaming platforms. So you can just Google Corner to Copa and it'll come up for you. But on behalf of me and my co-hosts, we up out of here.
Peace.